And like Opello in the sea, a school we must be. We're planting kalo to feed our family, singing our songs to help each other along. Kekio ka'aina, stand strong. Kekio ka'aina, kekio ka'aina. And like Opello in the sea, a school we must be. We're planting kalo to feed our family, singing our songs to help each other along. Kekio ka'aina, stand strong. Kekio ka'aina. So I highly recommend sticking around for Skya's live fermentation workshop. Aloha.
Aloha, my name is Skya of spoonfulofparadise.com, and I'm here at the Kailua Farmers Market on behalf of Ball Jar Company. They are the makers of mason jars. Today we're actually going to teach you how to use these jars, the wide mouth mason jars, to make live pickled pineapple spears. So what is a live pickle versus a not live pickle? A live pickle simply means that we've actually used live fermentation to pickle the pineapple in this case. You can do that with anything. You can do it with cucumbers, and that's like traditional pickles that we're used to. You can do it with cabbage, and that's sauerkraut. And it's actually the same process that we're going to use. It's the same process that we use to make yogurt, right? We know how yogurt is like a live soured milk. It's got live cultures in it. You've heard of that? Yeah, it's good for our digestion. Well, in the same way, this is going to be really good for our digestion, okay? Because it's live fermented. There's good probiotics in this food. So how is that different from like regular pickles? Like if we were to just buy pickles or pickled pineapples in the store, what is different about that? Those, yeah, those are pasteurized, and more than likely they're not even using fermentation. They're simply using either vinegar or a lot of salt, and then often some cases it's sugar to actually preserve. So it's actually more of a preserve than a live ferment. So traditionally, a long time ago, pickles were actually live ferments like this. Nowadays, with things being industrialized and commercialized, things aren't so live anymore. They're more preserved, and sometimes they even use chemical preservatives. So we're using no chemical preservatives, and we're actually going to allow the natural, good probiotic bacteria to create the acid, which is going to make it sour, to preserve this for us. Okay, so this is the final product, and it's actually pickled. So it will last in your fridge for months because it's been naturally pickled. And when you eat it, you're getting the live probiotics. Okay? So this is really easy to make. The hardest part is just cutting up your pineapple, which, some people are a little bit challenged by. But if you have a good knife, it's really not hard. You're just going to cut the two ends off. Okay? And then you're going to peel it. You're going to basically cut the skin off. And then you're going to cut it into quarters. And then you take the centerpiece out, because that's kind of too hard to eat, right? Even when you pickle it, it's still too hard to eat. So you take the center out, and then you're going to cut it into spears. And so what we're going to do is we're basically going to take these spears, and again, the ones I've already cut. So these are our pineapple spears, alright? And what we want to do is we want to arrange these in our jar so that we can fit as many as we can. So obviously, the more order we have, the more we can fit. So we're going to turn the jar onto the side.
Fermenting.
Live fermented pineapple spears. Yeah, it's like pickles. Pickles, yeah. And we're just going to basically lay them in here in a nice, organized fashion. And one thing this is actually going to do is it's going to help to keep these guys under the water. So we're going to be putting water on them. And whenever you do a live ferment, you want to make sure that it's submerged under liquid. Because the liquid is basically keeping the air off of it. If we had a bunch of oxygen in here, it really wouldn't do the right kind of fermentation. It'll actually start to rot. That's one of the reasons we use the ball jar, the ball mason jar. Because it's a great little space to create the right environment for fermentation. So see, this one's barely going to fit. I'm just going to kind of stuff it in. We'll get them all in there. And then now it's tight enough to where they're not going to float to the top. And we're going to have a lot more of that because we can put more in. Okay, so now all we have to do is add our flavoring, which if you don't like the flavorings we're using today, you can just do it plain. You don't actually have to do any of these flavorings. But we're going to try to make it a little bit spicy. So we're going to add a few of these little Thai chili peppers, which were grown here in Hawaii, just like the pineapple. And all we're going to do is cut this little green thing off, which is going to kind of open it up at the top so that some of the flavor can come out. And I like to just kind of stuff it down in there without touching the cut part because that will burn your hands. So actually I'm going to stuff it in upside down so don't touch it. And again, the more of these you put, the spicier it'll be. It's really up to you how spicy you enjoy things. Yeah, I'm putting 3. But you can put more or less. Kind of just play with it, you know? Maybe err on the side of less in case you don't like spicy. Okay, and then I'm going to do some grated ginger, which all I did is I took my grater, my microplane, and I took fresh local ginger from the market, and I just grated it to make about a tablespoon. And again, if you really like ginger, do more, because ginger is great for digestion as well. So I'm just going to stick that on top, alright? Because now what we're going to do is we're going to fill it with liquid, which will mix all the ginger in anyways. Okay? So we're going to do lime juice, kind of about 2 tablespoons. This is, you know, pretty much for flavor, so you could do more. And if you don't like lime or if you don't have it, you could do lemon. It's fine too. If you don't have lemon, you could do a little bit of raw apple cider vinegar. Rags raw apple cider vinegar. So I'm just going to squeeze a lime in here. I might do 2 since I have so many, and I really love the flavor of lime with pineapple is a really great combination. These are also grown locally. Got a lot of good citrus in Hawaii.
How many limes did you use again?
I'm doing 2.
2?
Yeah. I think in the recipe I said like 2 tablespoons maybe, but it's really, like I said, more for flavor than anything. Okay, now we have to talk about how do you get it to ferment the right way. How do you get it to do what we call a lactic acid fermentation, which is basically souring. How do we get it to sour with the right kind of probiotics? Right? The way we're going to do that is we're going to use live-fermented kombucha. Probably all heard of or tasted kombucha. This is going to be our starter because we know that this has the good lactic acid bacteria in it. Right, the good probiotics. So we're going to use this. It's also very compatible flavor-wise with our pineapple. Because there are other ways of adding a starter, like miso, but that's just not very compatible with the flavor we're going for. So the kombucha is going to be the best for that. So I'm going to just add 1/4 cup, and that's basically going to add all of our good probiotics that are going to start munching on the pineapple. And they're basically converting the sugar into lactic acid to make it sour, which actually pickles it. Okay? So now all we have to do is we have to fill it the rest of the way up with water. Okay, and I have some clean filtered water here, and I'm just going to add it up to the neck, just right above the pineapple. Right about there. Now what I found after I made the first batch was that as it fermented, the pineapple started to break down and it actually loosened a little bit, and because the bacteria are producing carbon dioxide, the pineapple started to float to the top. And like I said, we don't want the pineapple above the water. So, and this is a pretty common thing when you make ferments, is finding something to weigh down the fruit underneath the liquid. So what I found was that a little clean ceramic ramekin, you can just stick it right on top and then seal it in. And you know, ceramic is a non-reactive substance, so it's not going to hurt anything. And then you're going to seal it up, and what that's going to do is as it ferments, it's going to weigh down the pineapple. That's all it's doing. Okay? And there you go. So what we want to do is we want to leave this out, because if we were to put this in the fridge right now, it's not going to ferment, right? Because the refrigerator basically slows the bacteria down to the point where they're not going to actually ferment this. So we're gonna leave this out for about 24 to 48 hours on the counter. Usually I like to cover it with a towel because the light isn't really good for fermentation. And so just kind of put it in a quiet, place, maybe like underneath your counter in your cabinet. And you're gonna let it sit for like 24 to 48 hours, and then we want to actually move it to the refrigerator, or you can just open it up and taste it. Either way, good. Right? So this is the final product that we've already fermented. So I fermented this for like 48 hours, and then I stuck it in the fridge for maybe another day. Okay, so it's been sitting in the fridge. So I'll go ahead and cut some of this up, and you guys can try it.
Did you burp it?
This one doesn't need the burping as much because the water kind of makes it a little more stable. But it is a good idea, because you'll notice if too much gas builds up, this top is going to basically pop up. Which, it's not really a big problem, but if it does that, maybe just slightly open it a little bit, and you'll hear kind of like some hissing sounds, and that's just relieving the pressure. And that's fine. And you'll see bubbles forming as it's fermenting.
Does it change the sugars in the pineapple?
That's a really good question. So a lot of people are concerned eating sugar and like the chutney because there is a lot of sugar in fruit. And what's happening is the fruit sugars are actually being converted into lactic acid by the bacteria. They're eating the sugar and they're converting it into lactic acid. Now they're not doing that to all of it, because if they were to do it to all of that, this would be really, really sour and it wouldn't be sweet at all. But as you'll notice, it still has some sweetness to it. So there's still sugar present. So if you are diabetic or trying to lose a lot of weight, be careful how much you eat. But again, it's a pickle, so you're typically only going to eat like one spear or like a couple spoonfuls of the chutney. So it's not something you're going to eat a lot of.
Is the lactic acid good for you?
Yeah, lactic acid is actually really good for you. It's very cleansing for your liver. It's good for your digestive tract. It actually helps to kill all the bad microbes that live in your digestive tract, and it encourages the growth of good microbes. So it's very good for you. Yeah. So this is actually considered a medicinal food because it's live-fermented. So we'll go ahead and pull some of these out. Cut them up, and you guys can take a fork and try a piece. Alright. Yeah, be the brave one. Try it first. Ginger comes out. Yeah.
Like a perfect balance of salty and
ginger kind of mellows out too as you ferment it. As it pickles, it kind of brings out the flavor.